27th, 2026. We'll start with the invocation, and Pastor Tom, if you would please do that for us. Thank you.
Bow your heads with me, please. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed it be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Amen.
Amen. Pastor Tom, you're going to be very tough to beat.
Oh, great.
Thank you very much. Okay, call the roll, please. Madam Clerk.
Okay. I'll go ahead and just give a quick intro. Good evening and welcome to the City of Lincoln's regular meeting. Just a reminder that tonight's meeting will be televised and available on cable channel 18 and also via Zoom. I'll go ahead and start with roll. Councilmember Andriotta.
Present.
Councilmember Reedy.
Here.
Councilmember Brown.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Eklund. Here. Mayor Pearl.
Here. Okay, report from closed session, Ms. Mollenkoff.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pearl. There is no reportable action.
Thank you. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance. Brian, would you leave us in the pledge, please? Thank you, Brian. Agenda modification, any modifications from the council? Oh, okay. Staff?
Yes, Mayor, one modification. We're going to move the fire department year-end report with your concurrence to next meeting because Chief Mejia is out sick today.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We will have a moment of silence for Doug LaMaffa, Congressman from the 1st District. I had the pleasure of meeting him on several occasions. He was a true gentleman. He was just one of the people who you look at, you meet, he gives you his word, you know it's going to be kept. And he was just a fine individual. I think he was 65 when he passed away, way too young. He had so much more to give to the country and to our community. A very exceptional guy. And we certainly send our condolences to his family. So a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Doug will be missed.
Mayor, could I make a
Yes.
comment
Yes,
about that?
please.
So I actually had the opportunity to attend Congressman LaMalfa's celebration of life, as did Kathy Arts, who's in the office here, or in the office, in the room here, on Saturday in Chico. And there were about 3,500 people there. It was very well organized, lots of security. It was one of the most beautiful tributes I've ever seen. Speaker Mike Johnson was there and he spoke. Former Speaker Kevin McCarthy was there, a bunch of others. What was really great about it is, as everybody knows, there's like horrific storms going across the nation. A lot of planes were grounded. Speaker Johnson had another plane available to the DC delegation that came out, but it had mechanical problem. So Vice President JD Vance gave Air Force Two for them to come out because the message was, it was for Doug. Everybody on both sides of the aisle loved him because he was the kindest person they've ever met. And it was a wonderful tribute, and it was an honor to be there. And you're right, I think he was 63. And it's a huge loss for the region, for the country, and for everyone who knew him.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that was very good. Okay. Public comment on non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. All speakers' time will be limited to 3 minutes unless extended by the mayor. All comments or questions should be addressed to the mayor, and in most cases, the City Council is prohibited from discussing or taking action on any item not appearing on the posted agenda, but may engage in brief discussions, provide directions to city staff, or schedule items for future meetings. Hope, you have a few people?
We do. Thank you. We'll start with Stan Nader.
Mr. Mayor and Council, my name is Stan Nader. I live in the 12 Bridges area. Because of the large number of individuals attending the last City Council meeting and wishing to speak under public comment, the mayor strictly enforced the 3-minute rule for each speaker. Because of that, I was unable to complete my prepared comments in which the most important message I wish to communicate was contained. So I will share it with you now. At a minimum, the issue of mayoral rotation should have been placed on the November agenda so that staff and the public would know what the council was going to do at their December 9th meeting. But please consider this a warning that you, the City Council, may have violated the Brown Act regardless of what this city attorney may be telling you. I will be contacting relevant agencies for their opinion on this matter. There's been some debate over how the council conducts voting on ordinances and resolutions. Government Code 36936 uses the term that a vote has to be recorded as to the majority vote of the council. In previous councils, the practice was to have a roll call vote on those matters. In 2014, SB 751 was passed amending the Brown Act, which required votes to be reported publicly for voting transparency. I took this to mean it is important for the public to know how each member of the council voted on a particular matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan.
Okay, next is Rob Schmidt.
Recently, the Lincoln Police Department sent out a sergeant to address a group of Esplanade homeowners about the subject of public safety and home safety and neighborhood safety and safety. He did a terrific job. He represented the police department perfectly. And so I wanted to thank you for freeing him up to come by and say a few words to us.
Thank you.
Okay, last one. In terms of speaker cards, Stella Greenhouse.
Hi, good evening. I want to share with you this last weekend, I was at a baby shower in Discovery Bay, which is west of Stockton on the 4. And I was, I don't know, a couple hundred people that were there, but one of my friends from college, I happened to tell her that I lived in Lincoln, and she said, I love Lincoln. I just went there for the first time. And I said, oh, how, why? And she lives in Vallejo now, or excuse me, Vacaville. But she said that one of her friends recently moved to Lincoln and she had a birthday party and they went to the waffle shop and then they went to Speakeasy. And she said it's such a dainty, beautiful little town and she wants to come back. So I just wanted to share that testimony with you of someone that I ran into, that I went to college with, that come to visit our town and how we welcome them. And more importantly, how we should not underestimate our town. And as we look at the growth and where we're going in the future, how important it is to realize that we do have a gem. And one of the things I say and have said is in regards to how many churches there are. So this town was really built on faith. The second thing was kind of interesting to me that Mr. Nader had mentioned about the mayoral vote. And Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you and who you are and your integrity and the opportunity I got to meet you the very first time. But I do want to say that I do miss our Madam Mayor. I do believe that she was a great representation and a big advocate for our town, very passionate about what she does. And so I hope you can fill those shoes. I know you've seen some of the emails and the things I've said about her that have been very candid and honest, but I do believe that that tenure and that experience that she brings to our council is very important to our city growth, and that I hope that she will continue to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. That it?
No speaker cards. No further speaker
Nope.
cards.
Okay. Anyone on Zoom?
If anyone on Zoom would like to provide public comment, please raise your hand now. I see no hands.
Nope. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyone in the room would like to make a comment? Linda?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I would like to tell a story. I went to Chevron the other day to put air in my tires, and I was having trouble. And two gentlemen who were part of the garbage pickup for the city of Lincoln came over and helped me. Thank you. That's what makes Lincoln special.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, and those here as well as watching at home. My topic basically is surprise regarding the ADA. Over the last 6 or 7 months, I have put together copies of many pages regarding the ADA and shared that with the council, probably over inundated you with that information. But there was a reason there for my madness. I wanted to make sure from my own point of view that you've received as much information as you possibly could in an abridged order in order to determine and make sure that what the city's doing and how they address the ADA system. A wonderful point of note is when I got home this afternoon, I had received a very nice letter from who now I'm stating is the ADA coordinator, Mr. Foot. It was short and nice. Simply had let me know that not only had you received my complaint back in October, but that he was working on it. In the letter, unfortunately, though they sent to me, it was rather vague. It simply stated that they had received it. He was certainly working on it, which I was very pleased. And at that time, too, he basically had said, we're checking it out and we'll get back to you. And one of the sentences, too, which I understand, however, kind of ruffled my feathers just a little bit in the fact that he did state that in the event I had sent something into the city, a complaint or a grievance, that if I didn't hear from him or someone from the city within a couple of days or a week, is to give the city a call and let them know where are we. That's almost backwards as to how that's supposed to work. The individual fills out the form, they submit it, and then at that point, the person in the city, ADA coordinator, is supposed to go ahead and contact that individual and basically say, yes, we have it, we need to look into it, and we'll keep you apprised. The one thing that was changed in that note was, in the event you don't hear from us, give us a call. In this particular case, that was in October. And so here we are down the road, but it was still very nice to get that note from him. The one thing was very happy to see and hear, and hopefully you would have picked this up with the documentation that I've been bombarding you with over the last several months, is couldn't help but notice that the Lincoln Community Center is also having solar panels and things put up there, which I think is vastly needed. However, also in the ADA is that whenever you take and make a addition or I want to call it a change in that particular piece of property, you have to bring everything up to speed, which is the first ADA complaint and has to do with the bleachers for that facility. So I'm looking forward to that being taken care of as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Aaron. Thank you. Okay, I think we've now gone through everyone online and here and on Zoom, so we are good to go. Consent calendar, would any of the council, my colleagues, want to pull an item? Staff? Okay.
Mr.
All
Mayor,
right.
just to remind you, we do have a couple of speakers that would like to comment on consent calendar. So whenever you're ready for that.
Okay, let's have it.
Okay. Stan Nader.
The mayor and council. As the council discussed how much the penalty, quote, fine should be, there seemed to be difficulty in determining how the city would seek to de-intensify a bad behavior by individuals using electric mobility devices, because these users and their parents have shown disrespect towards the public and show little remorse for their bad behavior. There should be some increased level of deterrence for repeat activity. I would suggest the council consider adding to the ordinance increased level of fines for second offense, $100, third offense, $150 for repeat offenses. I know that the police department wants to use education to improve behavior, but sometimes you just can't fix stupid. As a citizen of Lincoln, I am allowed to request that one member of council pull this item for consideration of increased level of fines for repeat offenders.
Thank you, Stan.
Mr. Nader, would you also like to speak on that second item? 11D.
Regarding the ordinance for fortune telling and occult arts businesses, I do not believe the city would want to be or should be known for these types of businesses. These certainly do not fit the culture or wholesome character of our community. As I stated at the last city council meeting, the council should restrict where these businesses are located. As an example of over proliferation of business type, the city has 2 smoke shops within stone's throw of each other at First Street and Lincoln Boulevard. I think the city has more important issues to deal with, like encouraging the citizens of Lincoln to vote for a 1/2-cent sales tax to increase support for public safety. As a citizen of Lincoln, I am allowed to request that one member of council pull this item for consideration of restricting where these types of businesses are located. Thank you.
Thanks, Stan. Okay, does anyone want to pull any of and calendar? Okay, in that case, I'll accept a motion.
Move approval of consent.
Thank you. Second. Okay. And seconded. Discussion? No discussion. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Nope. Okay, moving forward. Thank you very much.
And just for the record, Mayor, it was a unanimous 5-0 vote.
Okay, no public hearings, general business. Araceli.
All right, good evening, Mayor, council members. Araceli Casares, Engineering Manager, Capital Improvement Projects under the Engineering Department. Happy to be here tonight to talk about and inform you on the Water Master Plan update that has been happening for the past year and a half. We've been working on it with different city staff members and divisions and departments. And so tonight, it's a very high-level presentation that I'm going to provide to you. This Water Master Plan document is over 200 pages, not counting the appendices within it. There's a lot of details, a lot of numbers, calculations, behind-the-scene type stuff that I can talk forever about in my engineering mind. So sorry if this doesn't quite flow very well, but I was just trying to pull out the important highlights. So again, the last Water Master Plan update was from 2017, and the purpose of this is to prioritize the water infrastructure improvements and investments. It's also to inform and support upcoming studies such as the Pacific Public Facility Element Nexus Study, the 2025 Urban Water Management Plan, and upcoming water rate studies. And then for our public as well, we want to make sure we have a practical, prioritized roadmap that identifies water infrastructure improvements, ensuring that the city maintains a safe, reliable, and resilient water system for our constituents. So I'm not going to talk of every bullet point here, just very high level. Water Master Plan is comprised of 10 chapters, and it's basically your roadmap. And this is how the Water Master Plan builds. Each chapter builds upon itself. So we have our existing water system, background information, description. We get into a water demand analysis, then our water supply, our operational system criteria that we use in the hydraulic model evaluation. And that hydraulic model is then used to look at our existing system and our future system scenarios, and all that pulled together for our rehabilitation and capital improvement plans. So just high-level summary, where we're at, our existing water system covers 29 square miles, which is about 18,400 acres. We have approximately 280 miles of transmission and distribution pipeline, 5 groundwater wells, 3 storage tanks, and 10 pressure regulating stations. As far as our water supply sources, we purchase surface water from PCWA. We purchase surface water from NID that is treated and supplied through PCWA facilities, and we also pump our groundwater from our city-owned wells. So our goal has been to roughly meet our water demands with 90% of surface water and then augment 10% of our groundwater wells. So here's a exhibit of our existing water system showing the wells mainly on the west side of town, the tanks on the southeast, and then all the distribution transmission mains throughout the city. I also threw in here, because of my capital projects that we've been working on for the past 7-8 years now, just to give you a picture of the age of the system that's throughout town. And you'll see in the core downtown where all the red and orange is where we've been really focusing on doing the rehabilitation 1 mile at a time or so. And so it's paying off, and we'll continue to do this. So onto water demands. The takeaway from chapter 3 would be we have 23,454 connections. And this is as of 2023. This is 2023 data. Of those 23,400 connections, 97% are residential, and they consume 83% of our water. The other 3% are non-residential with 17% consumption of the water. So those tables below just break up the numbers a little more for you, but that's the big takeaway for our demands. Next, we have here our general plan document, and this guides our growth and help provide the roadmap for how we're going to project future demands for our city. And we worked with the Planning and Community Development Department to project in 5-year increments how the city will continue to build out and grow. And that will be used here to project incremental land use projections in 5-year increments. I know this is a lot of information, a lot of data. This table actually, the table 3-8 actually takes up 2 pages within the Water Master Plan, but it gives you an idea of the detail that is gone through to analyze and make best educated projections for when these developments will actually come online, and then they will be coming and connecting into our water system, so we can look at when we're evaluating the water model, how that's going to affect our system and what improvements are going to be needed. So, and again, I'm sorry, it's a lot of data. Just wanted to put the two together. We project, calculate, and then we get our overall, here's our water demands projected in 5-year increments, and then the supply. So here I have that 27.1 MGD highlighted, and that indicates that before we get to year 15 of projected water demands, we're gonna have to figure out what we're gonna do for water supply, because that's when we reach our maximum day demands, and so we need additional capacity to meet the 15-year phase projections. And this graph basically shows what the table was depicting and showing. So we have the dark blue band going across the bottom. That is our existing surface water supply. The lighter medium blue, that is our contracted surface water supply from OFER Phase 1. The lighter blue that builds on top is the future PCWA surface water supply through OFER Phases 2 and 3. Then the green is our firm groundwater supply capacity currently. And then the yellow is what is the future water supply, where that's where we need to come together, do these studies, figure out how we can diversify our water supply options and start or continue the conversations with our partners and creating that delta, getting our water supply increased. So from the water supply evaluation, these are some of the recommendations as I touched upon. So continuing to look at increasing our capacity through PCWA, conducting groundwater supply studies, which would include ASR wells. And if you're not familiar, ASR is Aquifer Storage and Recovery, and it's a water management strategy where you inject treated surface water into the suitable aquifer during times when there is that surplus water available, and then it can be used during periods of high demand. So these are the types of studies, feasibility, and to look into for diversification of our water portfolio. Also looking into feasibility and reliability for NID water supply and what that would look like or could look like. And then also looking at our recycled water master plan and seeing where we could utilize more recycled water to offset potable water use. And then also just continue to monitor consumption reductions from conservation efforts. So we have our demand, we have our supply, we have our projections, and then this is where we get into the hydraulic model calibration and make sure it's updated with latest infrastructure. And then we start our evaluation of our existing system and how it's performing versus our operational criteria, which this table is really small, but just to give you an idea, the different criterias could be fire flow, or not could be, are fire flow, pump station capacity, storage capacity, minimum, maximum pressures within the pipes, and maximum pipeline velocities. Those are all things that when we're running the water model scenarios, we look at and see how the system performs and where recommended improvements come because of these performance criteria. So for our existing system improvements, there's several recommendations that are presented, which include installing dedicated backup power at 2 of the well sites, Nelson and Moore Road wells, for system reliability, and also constructing new booster pump stations at 2 of the tanks with backup power for system reliability and capacity. Also, there was 2 pipelines that were identified that exceeded the velocity criteria that are included here to be recommended for replacing with larger diameter pipes. And then continuing the rehabilitation and replacement program as we have been. So that's an ongoing thing. So here on this exhibit, the yellow highlighted areas are what was presented in the bullet points from the previous slide. So it's just visually showing you the areas where they're at. And then similarly, the hydraulic model was run for the future system improvements, and this table presents the recommendations from that. And I'll go to the next slide. I like visual. So this shows you visually what the future system improvements look like. But I do want to state, it's really important that this exhibit is based on the data assumptions that are documented throughout the Water Master Plan based on 2023. And as development continues to occur, and this will need to be refined, and infrastructure will change. It won't be per what is shown here. So we'll need to update. So all to say, this Water Master Plan is a living document, and it's to be updated every 5 to 8 years to make sure we're capturing what the trends were. We projected, XYZ, but in reality, this happened, that happened. So this is a living document. It's not something to sit there and this is all that we have to follow. No, we need to continue to update and work it. And just like we do with our water model, we're constantly updating and making sure we have as-built worked into it so that we're running the correct fire flows for whoever applicants are coming in. So with that, next steps, we have continuing to collaborate with our regional water agency, partner agencies on future water supply opportunities. And then referencing and using the document to prepare the 27-29 biennium budget with the recommended studies and capital improvement plan. Also using this study this water master plan for the 2028 water rate study, the public facilities element nexus study, and the 2025 urban water management plan. So this is a resource for all of these future studies, documents to come. And with that, happy to answer questions or take notes.
This is a fabulous document, and what I really appreciated was the fact that, as you put it, it's a living document. Every, 5 to 8 years, we'll be updating that. How did we compare with, the last one was in 2017. Are we pretty well on track with what we thought back then of where we are right now?
It's a little hard to compare because the 2017 document focused more on supply strategy and less on the nuts and bolts of the hydraulic model system evaluation. But in general, yes, we are pretty aligned in the same, just because it was still the 2050 planning document is used as well.
Well, so it certainly gives us a great roadmap for the future. I know one of the things that we all get asked all the time, because we're growing, do we have enough water? And the answer that we've heard all the time is yes. And that was also reiterated this morning in the Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs meeting when the PCWA representative, Primo Santini, just mentioned that also. Yes, we're on track, obviously, the things that we have to do in the future, but the water capacity is there. One thing I noticed, I was going through it, I spent a fair amount of time over the weekend because a lot of this stuff is way over my head, but it's okay. It's very, very well presented, and graphically, it's fine. I don't want to make, it looked like there was the total cost here, because I'm a numbers guy, roughly $538 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
Over that period of time.
Yeah.
So,
And you'll see in that chapter 10, there's that whole page maybe of explanation. It's in how the estimating is. It's very high, general. These are the assumptions for that. So it's just point in time. This is what the estimate is.
yeah, no, a very, very detailed study. I think that's what we need, obviously, to go forward and to give the community the confidence that, yep, we've got this thing under control. Obviously, things are going to happen, but we really know what we're doing over here. That's fine. Thank you. Questions from my colleagues?
Yeah, Araceli, looking at the map on future system improvements, page 19, is everything that's on this map, is this what we have currently, or does it include new infrastructure that?
So what's current is grayed out. The
Okay.
new infrastructure is in the color. So if you look at the legend, so what's yellow is assuming the existing improvements that were part of the recommendations are implemented, but they're not existing right now as of today. And then everything that's purple, blue, green, orange, and red are future in those 5-year increments based on when those demands come into play.
Okay, sorry, you probably said that, but I just wasn't able to keep up with you. And then my other question was, so when we're talking about next steps or preparing for the 2027 budget, then we're going to take all this data and information, and then we're going to plan and know around then how much these improvements would cost, and then that's going to come back to us not until then in the budget, and then we'll just.
So for the 27-29 budget, we would only be looking at improvements needing for our existing system, because that's what we're responsible for. What's shown here is future improvements, which we wouldn't be looking at, because this is based on projections for development and growth, which we wouldn't be looking at that as a capital project.
Okay, thank
But-
you.
So to add on to that,
Okay.
the way to think about it is, take Araceli's, what is it, Araceli, 10-year line replacement project that we're working through downtown currently. That's ratepayers' dollars replacing those old lines. All this stuff that's 5, 10, 15, and 20 years out, we anticipate that those are dealt with through two means. One would be contractual obligations to serve as part of a development agreement for a new project. In other words, you're building something big and you need to have water capacity, and so here's how we think you should do it. And two is that plus figuring out a way to make sure that our fee program is set up on the water side sufficiently that a developer goes and spends a bunch of money to put in a new tank or a well somewhere, and that it would be unusual for just one project to receive the total benefit of that project. And so usually what you do is we will credit them back some of their fees that they've paid towards that public improvement, which is how we do roads and parks and a variety of other things.
Okay, quick question. Based on our conversation earlier about this, Sean, and thank you, Araceli, that was really great. Looking to the future, like 15, 20 years, making sure we have enough water capacity for the projected growth. Because, right, you're right, Mayor, like people ask me all the time, I'm like, we have plenty of water for the next whatever years. But based on my conversation with Sean, it sounds like, projecting a few years out, then we have to decide, where we're going to be able to provide for the new building. Okay, so my question is this, and I'm not saying that I'm against houses, okay? I don't want to get a call from the BIA tomorrow, but my question is, if we get to that point and we are looking at our supply and we're like, yeah, it's a little sketchy, like in 20 years, is that a reason to say we need to like halt home building? We need to halt some growth because we got to make sure we take care of who we have now. Can you see that
Yes.
playing out in the future like that?
Yeah, so I guess there's two what ifs. The first is if I think Chris and Matt and probably Araceli can tell you that the nature of groundwater supply and just water in general in California has changed a lot over the last 20 years in terms of, when I started my career, there wasn't as much sort of regulatory eyeballs on every drop of water that's being pulled out of the ground or taken from surface water. As it has become a bit more of a constrained resource, things have popped up, new regulations, new requirements. And so is it possible that when we get to that period that we have to change the nature of our development, slow, pause? Certainly there are communities in California that have had to do that. Absolutely. The difference we have is we have kind of three advantages in Lincoln. We have PCWA, who has excellent rights and we're pretty forward thinking in terms of capacity moving forward. On the OFR side, on the River Arc project, which some other time we can brief you on all of that, that's another potential capacity enhancer. And then she didn't go into extreme detail on it, but one of the things that is a little different in this study compared to previous looks at this is trying to figure out ways that we can be slightly more reliant on our groundwater here because of a primary issue that Matt Medill and I talk about all the time, which is this one transmission line we have into Lincoln from PCWA. One line brings, what, 95% of our, I don't know, Chris, is that about right? 95% of our daily water, one line. And so that line has had problems in the past. Usually they're pretty short, a day here or there. But that doesn't mean there couldn't be a catastrophic problem or failure. I mean, these things happen. And if that happens, just to be really clear with everybody in the community, we cannot keep up with our current infrastructure to deliver water to our residents for more than probably a couple of days, especially in like a summer month where demand is very high. So the strategy here is partly to become just slightly more self-sufficient so that we can hold ourselves up. But certainly down the road, I mean, I shudder to think what things are going to be like in 20 years. I have no idea. It could be that water becomes such a scarce resource that all development is really difficult to pull off. I don't know. But it hasn't, I could just say if we're taking recent history as an example, it hasn't become easier to figure out.
John?
Yeah, I wanted to follow up on something Mayor Pearl said, or you kind of answered his question. Is there a different methodology that was taken to this as opposed to 2017? Like, are there assumptions or like you kind of talked about the differences in terms of comparing, and I kind of wanted to understand a little more what those methodology differences were between 2017 and now in terms of how you approached it.
Mainly, this time around, and I apologize because I wasn't involved with the last update as intimately as I am with this one, so I don't want to misspeak. But we took the lens mainly from like the bottom up, and when I say that, I mean from the pipelines, looking at how the system works and where do we have, if we have any issues, where the last one wasn't that from that detail, but also looking at it from the supply and resiliency and trying to diversify our portfolio and having Matt and Chris support and review this document as well, and that having more of a well-rounded approach in making sure the document met all our needs and making sure it provided information for us to move forward. Where the last 2017 master plan was more broader, big picture type. So that's the main difference.
Okay, thank you. So if I heard right, with existing commitments with OFR and our existing wells, we have about 15 years of projected growth, and then after that, we have to find new sources. Is that a right
Just
understanding?
before we hit the 15-year projected.
Okay, and that includes Ophir Phase 2 and 3?
That includes, yes.
Okay, and do we have, I'm not clear on where we are in terms of what we've committed to and what obligations we have on 1, 2, and 3.
So all we've committed, the city council in 2023 committed out of water connection fees. So just to be clear to the residents in the room, not your rates, repeat, not your rates, from fees paid by new development, committed $40 million to the Ophir treatment plant project. That project at one time was estimated as I think $140 million build. I don't want to jump ahead of PCWA. It likely will be more expensive than that. And we do not have, and the way that it worked, just so everybody knows, is we contributed that to PCWA, not as a, hey, let us just help you with this project. We used that to purchase capacity credits for a good long while. And they're putting that towards their project. So I anticipate that phase 2, by then, that's probably another 10-ish or more years at least down the road. We will have collected a whole new crop of connection fees based on development, and council will have to decide, is it best for you to use those funds to contribute towards Ophir or move them towards a city project or some blend of both. But in order for us to get value out of the subsequent phases of Ophir, there's a buy-in for sure.
So we've bought into 1, we have the capacity for 1, we have the wells we have, and NID, all the things. Those go 8 years out or 15 years out? Because if Ophir 2 and 3 get us to 15, where do you need to commit to 2 and 3 to get from that point to 15? Make sense?
Yeah, it does. So I wish in retrospect we would have invited somebody from PCWA to answer that question, but here's my general understanding. Phase 1, our reservation of capacity is that $40 million. That, my understanding is there will be additional capacity in just phase 1 that we have not reserved for our own use. So we could get more of phase 1 at some future point. And we probably will have recommendations in future years, depending on when we get towards the end. What we had done in the past, and Araceli, correct me if I'm wrong, but is we had basically, every time that we were anticipating a new subdivision or project coming, we would go to PCWA and we'd purchase roughly the amount of credits that we needed to serve said subdivision or specific plan area, right? And the reason we did the larger bulk deal was we used kind of buying power to drive down the cost. And in retrospect, we didn't know it at the time. We got an incredible deal compared to what we would get today. So it'll be kind of an interesting decision for this council and futures to make that each budget process, we probably will have to start making some decisions as we come down to maybe, let's call it that last 1,000 units of capacity we have. Hey, you have, let's call it another $12 million in connection fees. Would you like, how much room exists in PCWA's current capacity and how much can we purchase? There is, I know what you're getting at though. There is a possibility that phase 1 kind of maxes out at some point. I think phase 1 is 10 mg. Do you remember Matt, 10 MGD per day, I think is the first phase of Ophir?
Yes, each phase of Ophir is 10 million gallons a day.
Okay. So it's very possible that we end up in a position where they haven't been able to move on Ophir phase 2 and we have to seek alternative means. I tend to doubt it because hopefully Tony and all the folks that are at PCA aren't mad at me, but my sense is that this first phase is the hardest to get off the ground. Every little chunk thereafter is component adding to what they already have there. So perhaps it won't be as, Ophir has been planned for, I think, 20 some years at this point. And so we're hoping that, and the other component, I suppose, is that it's not really just Lincoln, right? They're serving Placer 1, they're serving Bickford, they're serving a bunch of other growing areas of the county. And so I suspect that we'll see phase 2 a lot sooner than we took to build phase 1. But alternatively, that doesn't happen. We're going to have to go out and seek surface water or groundwater elsewhere.
In your slide, thank you. Yeah, in your slide, you talked about the ASR and the recycled water are additional, essentially total capacity opportunities, and we need to study those. What's the timing of that study and when it layers in and then potentially can impact whether the potable water supply can be extended to 16 or 20 years based on things we can do there? How do those things layer together to give us that picture over the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, does Matt want to chime in? But we do have budgeted to do a groundwater feasibility study in this fiscal year. Is it 25, 26? To begin that process.
That's the ASR,
Yes.
and that's in the next 12 months to start.
Yeah.
If I could take the liberty, I would like to kind of address some of the questions that have been asked. So for the future water supply, one of the things that we have the great benefit of, and I'm going to give a shout out to Chris Nelson. He's an executive board member for the Regional Water Authority, which is this regional, all of the water agencies collaborate and meet on a regular basis. And Chris Nelson, sitting over there, is one of the executive board members of that group. And one of the things with the water industry is it is a tight-knit community. And one of the things that PCWA has mentioned on numerous occasions is they have a robust water supply. They have sufficient water supply for the city of Lincoln build out. They want to make that very clear. What the challenges are is constructing the infrastructure to reliably get that to the city of Lincoln. And they are committed to building a second pipeline. The last PCWA 2x2 meeting, we noticed that the pipeline moved from being called out as phase 3 to phase 1 through 3. So with the water industry, I mean, it's a moving target, and these capacity improvements are funded by the fees collected during development. So one of the things Andy Fecco, the general manager from PCWA, said, the most efficient use is on-time delivery, right? If we have overbuild a bunch of capacity and we don't use it, it's expensive, right? We've financed that in advance of the need. So the collaboration that happens at RWA and at the staff level and the board level that Chris Nelson is on is there's dedicated staff looking at this continuously. As Araceli mentioned, you know, we do this formally every 5 years or so, right? This water master plan, but we're rolling right into the urban water management plan that Chris Nelson is teeing up right now. Then we're going into right into the rate study. And then I'm pushing Vin, and I want to update the public facilities element nexus study. So this is a continuous, ongoing, everyday effort. We're on top of it. Future water supply options include Nevada Irrigation District has a water supply for the city of Lincoln. Chris and I plan to meet with Nevada Irrigation District and explore that option and see how resilient that system could be, what their canals, because a lot of those, irrigation district canals are gunite lined and traverse lots of topography, but we're going to explore that. I recently saw the city of Roseville, I think, is getting some federal funding for a raw water line to a water treatment plant in the city of Roseville. And I talked to one of their staff, and they said, maybe the city of Lincoln would want a raw water line at some point, or maybe even potentially have a churn out off of this line. And I haven't even looked at that, but that's a potential that we get a water supply and the city of Lincoln builds its own water treatment plant. Maybe we do that with the NID water supply. Maybe we build the 22 wells that are stated in this master plan, but that's kind of the low hanging fruit. But there are just plentiful opportunities, and PCWA is on top of planning their infrastructure to deliver the water that the city of Lincoln needs. It's just most municipalities have an intertie with an adjacent water district or an adjacent city, right, for a backup water supply. The city of Lincoln has the one water supply in our groundwater wells. So PCWA heard that loud and clear, and they said, well, maybe we can have an intertie with River Arc, you know, when Placer One builds out and we can connect over there. Maybe we can connect in the city of Rockland somewhere, you know? So we're on top of it. We're going to explore all options and see what's the most feasible path forward. But the good news is we have a lot of options. We just have to figure out what's the best use of our resources for the community of the city of Lincoln. But this is an ongoing project. It's not going to stop, and we're on top of it.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, but Whitney and I sit on the Placer County Water Authority 2x2, and it's amazing when we sit down and talk with them, the level of expertise and commitment to making sure that it's all working properly. So there's a whole team working behind it. One of the things that I saw also was, because the city manager talked about, we only have one pipe, you know, what happens, what if? The master plan in chapter 7 goes through all the contingencies. There's no answers, but at least we're recognizing them and saying, okay, we have to get on top of this thing without a doubt. So, I'm sorry. Ben.
So all of my questions were already asked.
All right.
And so I appreciate my colleagues for all of my questions being answered.
Thank you, sir.
One quick other thing. The second pipeline, is that something that is that up to PCWA, or do we have some say over the timing of that? The redundant connection there. So some redundant something somewhere.
Yeah, we're partners with PCWA. We have a really good working relationship. So of course we have a say in that, but the funding needs to be there, right? The funding from development would have to help fund that project to the majority of the funding would be collected from development. So I think that is more of a driver than, any other decision-making. It's how's it going to be paid for, because it's going to be very expensive.
So is it not already in their number that they're collecting today, or does it have to be added to the number we're collecting today?
I believe it's already part of their water connection charge.
So they're already stockpiling to do it, and then it's
Yeah.
just a matter of when they stockpile enough to do it.
Yeah, in my understanding, the water
build it.
connection charges that they've historically been charging paid for a lot of the upfront development for the Ophir plant that's being built now. So, and I would defer to them to speak more about their water connection charge. But that's my understanding is, that's for future capacity is the water connection charge.
And that's treatment and delivery, transmission. It's like all of it. Okay. Thank you.
Slow down development.
Okay, any other questions before we turn it over to the comments from the audience? Okay, public comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First speaker card, Stan Nader.
Mr. Mayor and Council, several months ago, the city manager told the council that the results of the update for the water master plan would be consequential and mind-numbing. That was not an understatement, with the document being 199 pages long with extensive analysis and recommendation. In reviewing the findings, there was plenty to chew on, with the costs that are significant. Overall program costs are at $539 million. 98%, or $529 million, being paid by water connection fees, meaning new development will be paying the lion's share of the costs for infrastructure improvements, which should be the case. 2%, or $10 million, being paid by current water users. When the annual average demand reaches 32 million gallons per day, surface water supplies from PCWA may not be capable of supplying 90% of the peak demand to derive 50% of the water supply would be coming from groundwater. This would require booster pumps to push the water to 50% of the city, as the city's wells are on the west side of the city. In my review of the document, I did not notice a discussion on the issue of the need for booster pumps in that regard. Additional studies will be necessary, such as supply options, groundwater recharge studies, ARS well studies, and recycled water feasibility studies. In some areas of the city, pipeline system update noted that the velocities are exceeding industry standards and potentially reducing life expectancy required and the replacing of larger pipeline sizes. The update refers to it being a live document, which requires frequent review as to the speed of development within the city, affecting how quick system improvements would have to be occurred. I may have additional comments when the update is brought back to the council for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan. Any other comments, questions?
Final speaker card is from Stella Greenhouse.
So I actually have questions, Mr. Mayor, not a prepared point, so I don't know the best way to have these questions answered if I ask them, because there's a little handful that came forward from a presentation. The comment first, I guess, is our city manager mentioned the council to decide, but let's be honest, our staff are the experts, and they are to put together a plan and present that to the council. So you make the final decision, but our staff, we really rely on you, and your care for the city is very important to us. So a few things, Araceli, that I have for you is this all done in-house, or did we use a contractor to do the evaluation?
Christine?
Mayor, I would suggest that we allow her to ask her questions,
Then-
and then Araceli's email was at the end of the presentation. I'm sure Araceli would be more than happy to reach out to her at the
Perfect. I was just thinking
conclusion.
that, yes.
Thanks for that direction. I appreciate that. So did we use a contractor to do this all in-house? Other cities that have had grown like ours at the place that we're at and where we're trying to go and how that comparison comes in. The other thing is defining kind of surface water, where our surface water comes from for the public so that we can understand. And then the comparison of price. So looking at our water rates versus others that are in our region. I don't hear anything about the integrity of the water. I did read within the last year that we have some wells that we cannot use right now because of the integrity of those wells. So integrity of water is very important to me to make sure that it's tasty and it's healthy. So that's something that's, I don't know if that's touched on in the master plan. The other thing we talked about was future construction. I think that's been vetted. But I know that there was a planning department talking about the development, and the developer had their engineering plan that went through the planning commission. And there was a lot of talk about the water and the push stations and these stations and that stations. And our engineering department did not have a great understanding of that plan at that time. So one of the things I replied back was, make sure we pass this, that we know really well that the water is important. So for me personally, I think you guys have heard me talk about how important water is to me, but that's just because I took the state exams back some time ago, thought about going into the field of this. So I just have a passion for water and understanding that when I turn that faucet on, how much it takes to get it to come out of my faucet and all that puts into that. So I think that's enough, and I can kind of reach out to Araceli on some of these other things. But the last thing I'll just say to the public is, if you see a leak, report a leak. Come on now, step up, say something, call it in. they're very responsive. Let's make sure we take our leaks locally. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, I assume that there's maybe one or two questions in there that might be answered right now, and the rest will we take under advisement.
Sure, real quick. And Araceli can jump in on the more technical ones, but most of the water we receive from PCOA comes from the Sierras, from a couple different tributaries up there. Quite in some cases through open channels, ditch systems, and then into a variety of pipe systems that make their way here. One of the advantages of living in Lincoln or Rockland is that PCW water, compared to many other areas of the state, at least that I've been in, is excellent in quality. Both in terms of total dissolved solids and salts and a variety of other things that they measure that leads to that. Chris can probably speak more to that. On the rates component, we did an analysis, which I'm happy to share, back when we did our last rate study. And what that showed was that at that time, we were not in the bottom third. I think we're in the bottom quartile of agencies that retail water like Lincoln does in terms of cost. With those increases and addressing some of the structural deficit problems we had in the water department, that has changed a little. But what most folks, and even me before I got into this, don't realize is when you pay your utility bill, you just see the number and you pay it, right? But that number is really 3 and sometimes even 4 services. So water is only one component of it. And our cost for an average minimum bill of water compared to most other jurisdictions, especially locally to us, is still below almost all of them. So from a value perspective, I guess that's the answer to that. Do you want to talk about quality or any other?
If you don't mind expanding, our city manager is absolutely correct. The integrity of our water, especially from the Sierra, the snowpack, people are paying 10 times as much for the bottled type that they pay for what they get from our tap for us. So yes, absolutely. The question about integrity itself, we do have our consumer confidence report that comes out every year where we test for numerous constituents in our water system to make sure that we don't have any contaminants out there of concern. We've exceeded all goals. There was a mention of a supply well. We do have one supply well that we've spoken about in the past that had tested positive for PFOS. We made the conscious decision as a city to manage that, to not run that into the system. It's not exceeding levels, maximum contamination levels at this time, but we're conscious enough to know we don't have to put that in the system. Let's watch it. Let's continue to test. We're actually going to be conducting a study this fiscal year to see about our options moving forward with that particular site, whether it be treatment, whether it be looking at another site and abandoning that one. So yeah, but the integrity system, top notch.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, and I appreciate the comment about
I think the one last thing was, yes, we did use a consultant for this effort. Absolutely. West Yost Associates was our consultant that helped put all this together, ran the analysis, evaluation, and the hydraulic water model. So yes, absolutely, we had expertise on this.
Perfect. Thank you, Araceli. Anyone on Zoom? Or any other cards? I think that's on the cards, right?
No other cards. Maybe open up one more time to the audience. And I have no one on Zoom with
Okay.
their hands raised.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Bring it back to the I'm sorry. Oh, Matt, I'm sorry.
I did just want to recognize that Araceli was the actual workhorse in this effort. I mean, this was months and months. We were under the gun. She was cracking the whip on Chris and I, mostly me. But we did the full cavity search on this water master plan. There was no lack of effort. We, Araceli is a absolute slave driver. And if it was up to her, we would have delivered this back in July. But I just have to give her the most credit because she absolutely crushed it. She did a great job on the presentation tonight, and I'm just super impressed. So she deserves a lot of kudos tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any other comments from my colleagues? No? Okay.
I
We-
agree with almost everything Matt said.
So motion's, I'm sorry. No actions, we're just accepting it. Okay, okay. Perfect.
Mayor, if, for members of the public, I get it. This might not be, your preferred reading for the evening, but if anybody that wants to dive into it, if you have questions, comments, concerns, also council, that's why we put this on as sort of, hey, let's talk it through. And anything we get back between now and when we bring it for adoption, we'll try to keep track of so we can address that at that time. But we just felt that this is a big enough and an important enough effort that we didn't just shoehorn it in tonight for an approval.
No, thank you very much. A very, very complete kudos to the staff without a, without a doubt, so. this will be a
Mr.
living
Mayor, I
document.
am
Yes.
so sorry. I have one hand raised.
Okay.
Okay, so
Oh.
it is Fran Neves. Are you
Oh, of course,
wanting
well,
to?
from Fran, absolutely.
Okay, I'll go ahead, Fran. You are unmuted. Please provide your public comment.
I'm sorry, I didn't really mean to speak on this, but I'm glad you all know I'm here. I had a nice email from Sean, and he answered a lot of questions about that Oak Tree Lane. So I wasn't going to speak. I didn't know my hand was raised.
Okay, thank you, Fran.
But since I am here, I wish you would all drive down Oak Tree Lane at night sometime. There's at least 500 feet without reflectors on it, and there's
Okay.
ditches on
Fran,
both
Fran,
sides.
we can't take this commentary on this item.
Yeah,
but
I'm
thanks-
sorry, I
but
don't know
thank
how
you.
that happened, but thanks anyway.
It's okay.
Good night.
Good. As Paul Joanna said, we speak Fran up here. It's okay, Fran. Not a problem. We love you. Okay, next item, Mr. Manager.
This one is actually going to be presented by Nita this evening, and her and Vin. Well, let me just share why we're doing this, and then she can explain the detail. So, like many things in Lincoln, one of the things I've learned being here a while now is we tend to obsess over certain things and over a long period of time, there's analysis paralysis without the analysis part, just the paralysis part. And so, a good example of that has long been the Carnegie building. And you know what? That group decided to, hey, let's go hire people that know about this and let's figure out what we can do. And so now that's hopefully going to become something. Very similar in this situation is this concern that I think almost everybody has had about truck traffic on Lincoln Boulevard, especially post bypass being created. The point of the bypass was to try to reduce what once was the highway in town, so that it became a roadway that was more usable for the community. While I think generally that's been a success, one of the things that's been noticed is that there's just a lot of truck traffic, and how do we have a walkable downtown without one? So Nita and Vin said, how about we go hire somebody that knows a whole lot about traffic and and especially truck traffic, and can get us some analysis, even if it's preliminary, about what we think is going on. What's the nature of the problem? Because we can all drive it and anecdotally, draw conclusions, but that doesn't really give you much in terms of solutions. And so I'm going to pass it over to Nita, who has been leading this project along with Vin.
Yeah, so in addition to those points that Sean just made, that we did undertake this study as part of the Downtown Master Plan and the Objective Design and Development Standards project that has been ongoing in community development for a little while. And this also is one of the City Council's strategic initiatives, is that we determine a way to make downtown more walkable and consider the truck traffic and travel on Lincoln Boulevard. So without further ado, I wanted to just take 2 seconds here to introduce Farron Pierce. They are one of the leading traffic consultants in the state. They helped us to conduct this study, performing an extensive research into the history, the whys, the wherefores of how trucks are here, which trucks are here. And so the principal of Farron Pierce, John Gard, will be presenting to you this evening. John, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, take it away, please.
Okay, excellent. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Again, I'm John Gard with Farren Piers, based in Roseville. I'm a professional traffic engineer and roadway safety professional with several decades of experience doing this, including work in Lincoln for dating back to the 90s, actually. I'm going to be spending maybe the next 10 to 15 minutes presenting this study that you're looking at right here, the truck route study. Really, the purpose of this study is twofold. One is to document existing truck routes and volumes of truck traffic in Lincoln. And the second purpose is to develop concepts for reducing truck traffic in downtown. Nita, can you forward to the next slide, please? Thank you. Perfect. So we'll be talking about the following 4 topics over the next 10 or 15 minutes. So let's just go to the next slide, please. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on regulations, but as we all probably are aware, the trucking industry has lots and lots of regulations relating to everything from driver rest hours to truck sizes to routes they can take, so on and so forth. You probably recognize these 2 signs on the right side of this slide. These are associated with certain types of trucks called Surface Transportation Assistance Act, or STA trucks. So these are called STA route signs, and the T and the S have certain meanings. These signs are present in a lot of different parts of the city, and they help separate what is considered to be a STA truck, which is a larger size truck than a California legal truck. STA trucks have greater turning movement requirements and things like that. As far as regulations go, there's also 2 other state laws that are making their way through most of the communities in California, called AB 98 and SB 415. I won't get into any level of detail on those, but they pertain generally to placement of logistics facilities, how to establish truck routes to avoid sensitive receptors and things like that. And the city of Lincoln is going through the effort, just like all the other cities are, to make sure that all the ducks are in a row by the time that this deadline for this adherence to AB 98 at the end of 2027 is necessary. Next slide. Okay, so for truck routes, generally speaking, we talk about light, medium, and heavy duty truck types. And these are 3 different types of truck purposes. We'll be talking a little bit later about Sierra Pacific Industries, one of the larger operators within the city of Lincoln. Trucks can vary by weight, by length, by number of axles, number of trailers, so on and so forth. Federal Highway Administration classifies trucks by 13 different total classes, 6 of which are trucks. Next slide, please. So now kind of getting into a little bit of the detail. This is the City of Lincoln's truck route map. It's available online. Each of these maps, each of these roads that you see here that have orange on them are identified STA routes. So these are the routes that large trucks are permitted to travel on. Each of these are terminal routes. And the city doesn't currently, on the city's website, nor even posted, have any California legal truck routes. So let me go to the next slide if we could. So what we did is we went out and said, well, let's document where all the truck route signs are. And as you can see, there's these itty bitty little blue signs. Some are a little bigger than others, scattered throughout a large part of the city. They're on many, many roads that are designated as truck routes. Those designated truck routes are shown in green there. But they're not present on certain other routes that are documented, such as parts of Friar Ranch Road and McBean Drive and things like that, McBean Park Drive. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. There's also some minor peculiarities of why certain STA route signs are placed, especially north of Lincoln, and especially outside the city limits. So bear with me as I try to explain this, but if a motorist, especially a truck driver, is driving south on Highway 65, has just left Wheatland, approaching the Rioso Road traffic light, there's a sign that says STA trucks can turn left onto Rioso Road to go east. And there's signs that then say you can go south on Lincoln Boulevard via STA route signs toward downtown Lincoln. Likewise, there's signs in downtown Lincoln saying STA trucks are allowed as well. As you can see in this image right in the center of the downtown on the right side, there's a STA route sign right in the middle of downtown. I think that's 6th Street. And there's also signs at the very south end of town at Lincoln Boulevard at 12 Bridges Drive, where Industrial Avenue becomes Lincoln Boulevard, permitting STA trucks to go north on Lincoln Boulevard through downtown. So it's not exactly fully clear why these signs are placed here. As was said before with the, the Lincoln bypass, the new Highway 65 built, the intention is to try to keep those trucks on the state highway and not going through downtown. However, one could surmise that the thought was, well, there's probably trucks that want to go from Highway 65 to McBean Park Drive, which turns into Highway 193. So perhaps that's why. But then there's also local trucks in town that may have, stop turning movement requirements as well. But it is apparent that there are quite a few truck route signs, and there's some inconsistencies. Even for instance, if we're traveling westbound on Highway 193 before reaching Sierra College Boulevard, there are signs present saying stock trucks should turn left onto southbound Sierra College, like you're heading south to Interstate 80. But McBean Park Drive is posted as a truck route. So there's clearly going to be some things as this works its way out where we're going to want to clean up some of the truck route signage and some of the truck route maps and things like that. So let's go to the next slide for a second, please. Thank you. Okay, so getting a little bit more analytical and numerical. This is an exhibit that shows how much truck traffic and total traffic is present on certain city streets. So what this slide shows is for each of these numbers is the total amount of daily two-way traffic on city streets, and the percentage next to each number represents the percent trucks. For instance, on Lincoln Boulevard, just north of McBean Park Drive, there's about 14,500 daily vehicles. Again, this was taken in May 28th and 29th of this year. 8% of those 14,500 total vehicles were trucks. So there's about, through downtown, just north of McBean Park Drive, 1,160 trucks per day traveling northbound and southbound combined. Highest percentage of trucks are to the north, and with truck volumes and percentages tending to decrease as we go south. In the crosshatching, there are two large operators, which everybody in the city is well aware of. I point your attention to Sierra Pacific Industries for a second, because what's present there is a count that was done at his driveway. All the trucks and vehicles, employees enter off the driveway on Lincoln Boulevard. And what is apparent there is that the two-way volume of traffic entering and exiting SPI, which is what it's known as, at Lincoln Boulevard is 1,700 vehicles, 850 in, 850 out, of which 44% are trucks. So that's a pretty considerable volume of truck traffic. And we'll get into a little bit more detail on the next slide on that. If we could go to that, please. Thank you. So this is a snapshot of what was going on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. And on this particular day, it's clear from that box right in the center of this screen that SPI trucks were about 41% of all trucks, excuse me. Let me repeat that. SPI trucks were 41% of all truck traffic in downtown. 461 out of 1,135 trucks. But 59% were not SPI trucks. And what we see at the SPI site are these are the daily truck volumes turning into and out of SPI versus going straight. And what's interesting here, which we'll talk a little bit more about here later, is the fact that there are southbound 228 trucks and northbound 226 trucks not even associated with SPI. And some of that is local truck traffic. Some of that is also, as we talked about before, some of those trucks that are coming down Highway 65 that want to go east on Highway 193. Next slide. Thanks. Okay, so for something quite a bit different than the numerics, what we're kind of shifting to now is the results of a brainstorming session that city staff asked us to do pertaining to thinking outside the box to a variety of solutions that could reduce truck traffic in downtown. So we had six concepts, and we're going to show those next. This is concept A, and concept A would introduce signage to prohibit trucks from traveling into downtown. Exact type of signs and geographic extents, how close we get to downtown, still would need to be worked out. Trucks that would have destinations in downtown could apply for transportation permits. Walmart and uses like that, they need to get downtown for their business. Let's go to concept B, please. So B through D are all focusing on, again, kind of thinking outside the box a little bit and a little bit more on each of these concepts. So concept B is focused on rerouting SPI trucks out of downtown. So in this case, what they would use is Wise Road as a truck route. Wise Road is not currently a truck route. It's got a 7-ton truck limit on it. And so trucks use Rioso Road instead. But if this were done and Wise Road was improved to allow for truck travel, it would save 7 miles of distance for each truck trip that would otherwise have to go north on Rioso Road if SPI trucks could not travel through downtown. As you can see from the bottom of the slide, though, there are some challenges associated with the unknowns of the structural section, some grade differences near the UP tracks, and some other things like that. Let's go to the next concept, please. C. Thank you. Okay, so this one looks, again, outside the box sort of thinking. Says, well, what if we were to just take the SPI site and provide vehicular access to Nicholas Road east of Joyner Parkway? You know, the property fronts along that. And so the thought here is to have this access and to encourage the use of Joyner Parkway. You'll see concept D and E in a little bit that talk about some other routes and things like that. One of the challenges, as you can see in the slide with doing that, is that there's a lot of sensitive receptors along Joyner Parkway. There's apartments, there are schools, there are parks. There's literally a park across the street, kind of near where the access might be. So some challenges associated with doing this for sure. Next slide, please. And, you know, kind of pivoting off that same concept of if we did have the access off Nicholas Road, what could occur would be, in this concept D, would be once the new Highway 65 Nelson Lane interchange is built, routing trucks to that interchange to avoid parts of Joyner Parkway altogether and parts of Friar Ranch Road. And then if we go to concept E, this is where we're starting to try to address the trucks that want to get to or from the north and to or from the east between 65 and 193. And this is the East Lincoln bypass, you know, making use of some of the existing roadways and some of the planned roadways in the New Village 2 and other areas. Very much a long-term type solution. And also, frankly, one that doesn't really address the majority of the issue, which is trucks. There's, you know, majority of the trucks that are on that are on Lincoln Boulevard north of McBean stay on that road south of McBean and head towards Highway 65 down towards Rockland and Roseville. So this would handle a minority of the problem, but not the majority of the traffic. And then finally, if we go to concept F, this is the Highway 65 Moore Road interchange. This is not a planned interchange. This is just, again, brainstorming type thinking. There's standards for interchange spacing. This would meet that standard, but there's wetlands, there's all sorts of sensitive receptors that would be necessary. It'd be a very costly improvement. And we would also be running trucks down along some of the, you know, sensitive receptors along Joyner Parkway. So if we go to the next slide, please. And this is the wrap-up slide. So after having had several meetings, a number of different meetings with city staff, you know, we had back and forth discussions of what do we prioritize, what are the pros and cons, what should we be advancing, and we came across the following three as the near-term priorities that should be pursued, which we're presenting tonight. And so the first one is that the star route signs on either end of the city and through downtown should be removed. This would be expected to shift several hundred trucks per day away from downtown right away, so we would have some immediate truck shifting away relief. Of the 6 concepts that were presented, concept B, the Wise Road rerouting, seems the most favorable in terms of ease of implementation, more so than any of the others. We're avoiding introducing more trucks along sensitive receptors and whatnot. And then finally, and from a regulatory perspective, city will be taking on the needed actions to comply with these recently enacted truck laws that I had mentioned, AB 98 and 415. This could involve updates to the city's truck route map, reclassifying certain routes from STA to California legal, increasing STA route sign visibility along certain streets, and documenting steps that are being taken to avoid truck traffic near sensitive receptors. So that was my attempt to kind of make this, you know, kind of brief. There's a lot more data that was involved, but I'd be happy to stop now and answer any questions the council might have. Thank you.
And before we take council questions, I wanted to toss it to City Engineer Vin Kay just to talk a little bit about the removal of those star route signs.
Good evening, Good evening, Mayor Pearl and council. That was a very good presentation by Fear and Peers. I think it was well worth it to go through the effort to actually quantify where the trucks are going that are cutting through our downtown. Several options were presented. None of the options are easy. We were just brainstorming, but we're looking for, for direction and comments and, feedback from council. Now, as to the existing star route signs, STAA route signs, they are, in speaking with staff, my senior engineering team and how that got implemented, and then in confirming with John and Fear and Peers, I do not believe those signs are accurate because as far as, I'm looking at the Caltrans website, only State Route 65 and I-80 are technically, interstate and state highways where the star trucks are supposed to go, right? And the blue signs, the terminal routes, the blue signs that the city currently has in place are, I don't believe are accurate. And I think it is within our authority to replace those and replace those blue signs with standard white truck route signs. And just by replacing those signs, perhaps we would, decrease the cut-through traffic coming off the interstate and coming off 65, because they may be mistakenly coming, especially southbound on 65, exiting on Rioso near Sheridan, and then, using the old Lincoln Highway to get to wherever they're trying to get to. It's a low-hanging fruit, as John mentioned, and that's something that I can coordinate with Public Works, and Public Works can coordinate with the county to correct those signs. So that's actually in process. I know our monthly informal traffic team has discussed that with our police department, Public Works department, and our staff is trying to get that done as quickly as possible.
And, I just, while we didn't want to bury you in the data, we do have more data if you'd like it. Just the percentage of like truck traffic and travel on Lincoln Boulevard and through town, it was really interesting to discover that the majority of the truck traffic is not Sierra Pacific. It's about 40%. And that of the 60%, a fair amount of that traffic is through traffic, just driving through town, we think, not making deliveries, not stopping at Walmart, not stopping at the restaurants, just driving through. And so that's interesting to us. And I know, John, and it caused us to question why. Why is that occurring? And the only thing that we can see, and I acknowledge these signs aren't magic, right? But the only thing that we can see as a reason for is these star route signs. And so we do think that removing those will have an impact. We don't know exactly what that impact will be. I know John is very favorable that the impact will be one that will be noticeable. And I'm a bit more hesitant, but I'm excited about anything that reduces a bit of truck travel on Lincoln Boulevard, regardless. And so we're moving forward with that because as Vin indicated, it is the low-hanging fruit. It is the only project in the concepts that we've identified that is something that can be accomplished quickly and relatively inexpensively. All of these other concepts are millions and millions of dollars and years in the making to accomplish, making that much more challenging. With that, we are happy to answer questions.
Thank you. Let me just say at the outset, I'm really disappointed, Vin. I was hoping for a quick, easy, simple solution that we could implement maybe next month. So, okay. Now, it's a great study without a doubt. I've been here since 2008 and we've been fighting this concept, forever, but at least we got it off the dime and we've got at least some data now that we can actually talk to. And if we got some low-hanging fruit, that's even better. Did I understand, John, from the consultant saying that removing the star signs will maybe take 700 trucks off? Did I hear that correctly?
John, I believe
No,
that
I
was
did
the
not
number
say
you quoted?
700. I just said up to a couple hundred.
Up to a
So
couple
maybe,
hundred, okay.
yeah, I mean, there's a total of 450 total trucks that are those through trucks at the SPI entrance. So if we were successful in getting 1/3 of those to go away, we would lose 150 trucks, which is 10% of the total truck traffic in downtown. So I wish we had a 700 truck solution, but no, I'm sorry. It's not something that simple.
And I assume there's no downside, I would assume, to removing the signs.
I
don't
may
believe
want to
so.
comment on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe so. I always look at, signs are traffic control devices, and, I do my best with the excellent senior staff, engineering staff team we have. We always try to abide by standards, and that affords the city protection in terms of liability. And in this instance, I'm very comfortable replacing the signs with standard truck signs.
Cool.
Can I ask what the difference is between the blue sign and the white sign?
Good question.
Yeah, John can follow up if he has more information. My understanding it is from a 1982 statute, Surface Transportation Act of 1982. It really is for the benefit of interstate commerce. These are interstate trucks with the cab behind the tractor. When I was in Yolo County, West Sacramento, we did have locations that are terminal access star route, like the Port of Sacramento, now West Sacramento. And we did have star routes, which are correctly signed. But in Lincoln, we don't have those destinations or originators of these types of trucks. If you have like, a port, perhaps, but we don't have that, so.
So and I'm totally fine with giving this a go. Are we talking about some of them can be removed because you don't have to have a sign at all? Or they all have to be switched, these ones, blue ones can be switched to white? Like we have to have a truck sign in all these locations, or, because it seemed like quite a mishmash on the map of like where they are and where they aren't versus what the things say are truck route. Like I can't find any consistency in that at all. Maybe that's the whole problem, but.
So the answer is yes. Some can be removed and replaced, and some can be removed altogether and not replaced. So that's a decision I'm going to make with our designer. The purpose of the truck route is really to guide the trucks who are there already, right, at an intersection. Let's say a truck comes up 193, ends up at the intersection of Sierra College Boulevard and McBean. Sierra College Boulevard is also a truck route. Our preference is that it turns and heads south rather than go straight through McBean, where we have a sensitive receptor, McBean Park. But we do have to keep in mind that State Route 193 is a state route. We can't easily, prohibit trucks along that route without some considerations. Perhaps with the new statute, we can weigh that. Something that we can take a closer look at to perhaps still allow trucks, but minimize it and require a permit. So those are things that we're weighing, in this process. I think that was sort of brought up with concept A about prohibitions through downtown or perhaps along 193 at McBean Park.
And realistically, that is the next easiest concept, although we are cognizant that that could have an impact on local businesses. And so that is why it's not our preferred concept, but we are looking for input, direction, comments regarding those.
Thank you. I thought that we were, to your point about 193, I thought we were getting ready to take over the State Highway 193 and then change it to just McBean Park Drive. Are we not doing that anymore, or is that on hold, or I'm just curious because you mentioned it. You said it is a state highway.
Yeah, so we started actually with that discussion because here's one thing we learned. One of the things also, I don't think it was mentioned during this, was that we were super sensitive to making sure that we had Sierra Pacific looped into this process. We didn't want it to feel to them that this was punitive. They're an important local business. They've been here a long time. They employ people. And they couldn't have been, we had went and met with them out at their site. They couldn't have been more understanding about the problem. One interesting tidbit that we didn't know that was shared was where the trucks come from varies greatly depending on what's going on in California at that time. So if there's fires occurring far north, a lot of that truck traffic is coming southbound from North State. When we had the Mosquito Fire to our east, I remember 193 had a lot of truck traffic, and that's because all of the lumber is coming from that area. And then we also learned that truck drivers that are coming down on the 80 corridor southbound have an interesting decision to make. They can either traverse 193, which is a difficult roadway to do, but these are experts. They drive it all the time. It's no big deal to them. Or they can swing all the way down 80, pick up 65, and deal with that traffic nightmare northbound. So many of them just choose 193. When we were thinking about whether or not we could just address the 193 issue, problem is it cuts off other businesses that need that route. So for example, let's say that you stopped them. We said, look, you can get to, we at one time thought, hey, maybe we can push them all up East Avenue and down 7th and keep them off of Lincoln Boulevard altogether. Problem is, East Avenue is not built for that. Your residents who live on 7th are going to be really upset about that. And every single alternative scenario we tried to come up with affected someone in a negative way or significant negative way. So that's kind of why we came with these other ideas that maybe they're a little softer, but potentially have an impact.
Well, no, I appreciate that. And as the mayor was saying, this is something that people have been talking about for a really long time. And I'm appreciative of the work that went into it and that let's just try something, right? Let's just start somewhere, see where we can get. I really appreciate that. And by the way, I'm sorry, it's freezing in here and I'm having a hard time concentrating because it's so cold. What is going on?
Yeah, I did bump the temperature up right before the meeting started, but it didn't seem to have an effect. And
Matt was trying to fiddle with it too, because I messaged Hope and she's all messing, and I'm like, it is so cold in here.
And just to respond further, that, that once I hate to say the Oak Tree Lane intersection, once the Oak Tree Lane intersection
say that.
is completed, that section will become McBean, where it is now 193. But there is still going to be State Highway 193 going up to that stop sign at Sierra College Boulevard. It will still be a state highway up to that point. And please.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, let me try to help clarify that a little bit. The city limit ends at Stardust Lane. So McBean Park Drive is within the city control up to that point. Beyond Stardust Lane is actually 193 within the county's jurisdiction, and the CHP actually patrols that portion, and Caltrans maintains 193. So there's now, I mean, what we do going forward would probably need to coordinate with the state and the county if we want to do any prohibitions along the route.
Are we able to do like the low hanging fruit? So we're taking out all the signs, seeing what that does. And then are we able to place a restriction or give permitting to all the businesses and SPI only, and then all that through traffic, cut that off or discontinue just that and see what kind of difference that makes? Would
That is a
be
program that we
substantial?
could investigate and spool up. It would take a little bit, let the traffic engineer speak, but it would take a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that. With the Concept A, downtown truck restrictions, what do you mean by that?
So that is actually open for a great deal of debate and consideration by this council. And it could be something that we do a whole presentation on just by itself, because it could mean something as draconian as no trucks. That's it, no trucks. And it could mean something as, well, we allow no trucks except for the ones that have permits. It could mean that we say no trucks except for during these hours, whatever those hours are that council sets. Maybe it's 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. I'm making up times. Please don't write those down. Nope.
Hmm.
So there is a lot of really discretion of what this governing body would want to do in consideration of restricting truck travel and what that looks like for this city.
Yeah, for me, I think, giving the signs a chance, it's going to be, I'm surprised. I cannot imagine these signs are going to affect what these truck drivers are doing, but if it does, that would be amazing. So I'm in favor of like doing that right away and then kind of taking a beat and seeing what impact it has, and then see between these other ones between A and B, whether we need to get into those conversations or if this has enough of an impact, just changing out some signs to make a dent. I'm really interested to see how that goes.
Same, and we may need to consider if we want to have Fair and Pierce come back and do, an additional survey of traffic, maybe 3-6 months after those signs are removed.
I completely agree that just getting something going, just let's start, right? We've done a ton of talking, tons of studies and stuff. Let's get action done. And yes. And then do another study.
So it would just be an extension of the study. This is actually one of the first actual studies the city has done about truck traffic and travel that I'm aware of.
Then could you and the consultant or your team come up with some high-level concept A options for us?
Regarding restricting truck
Restricting
travel.
traffic, yeah. No decisions, but I mean, just, point A, B, C, D, whatever.
Yes, well, we can look into that.
Okay. Okay, good. Anyone else? All right, in that case, we'll go out to the public. Any cards?
I have no cards.
Okay, anyone in the audience would like to comment? Okay, anyone on Zoom?
No hands raised.
All right, clean sweep, good. All right, good. So we're not, no motion over here, we're just accepting it. Okay, perfect. All right. Moving on, city manager reports.
Thank you very much. Just two kind of future items that I'm hoping I'm going to have both of them for you at your next meeting. The first is not huge deals, but I think they're important. We have got tentative agreement with the Chamber of Commerce. I've been talking with Tom and his new team about their accommodations in the old home that's in the Beerman's Plaza. And for a variety of reasons, I think, I don't want to speak for Tom, but I think they've outgrown that space, not in terms of capacity, but it just, Tom would probably tell you that it's not exactly the environment that he's wanting, and I think the chamber wants. And so you may not know, and if anybody from the public ever wants to see it, just let me know. Old City Hall, which is right next to the old building, where the Historical Society is, there's a second floor there with 2 office spaces. One of them, Aaron has put together a project with Jessup that you approved a few months back. And the other side has been generally vacant for a very, very long time. At one time, the city leased out at one time to an accountant and then also an attorney across the hallway. The attorney was our last tenant and he left about a year ago now. Few different agencies, some government agencies even have come and toured it and looked at it and kind of mulled over if it might be a good fit for them. It hasn't been thus far. And so just spitballing with Tom one day, I said, how would you feel about being on the second floor of City Hall? And he went and looked at it and he said, this is perfect for us. It's a bit more of a professional environment. We can have a better counter space for people. There's a beautiful meeting room that never gets used that overlooks the plaza where they can have their chamber meetings and mixers and all those things, and it allows for us to figure out what it is we're going to do with that older original home there. So I have that lease completed. It's going to mirror kind of what we've had with them in the past, and we'll be bringing that next meeting. The second one, which is a little bit more substantive, is as some of the people on the council would know, the city had been planning moving the council chambers in this room down to the first floor for a number of years. And we actually had gotten into design on it a couple of years ago, and it's almost the cost of the project is almost half of what this building cost to build 25 years ago, just for a remodel. It's just very, very expensive to remodel. So for now, it just doesn't make sense with our other financial challenges. But my perspective, I don't think it's rare, but my perspective is that this space has become insufficient for the size of the community and kind of the environment we want to create for people to come and engage with their government. So we got to thinking, well, if we can't afford reasonably to do the first floor project, at least at this time, we really should do something to this space. And so we're going to bring an item for you to consider and for the community to weigh in on. The idea is essentially we're going to flip this room. This new dais will slightly raised, a little bit more professional on the back side of that wall. And we're going to change staff seating significantly so that we create more capacity for residents to file into the room when we have busy nights. Going to deal with carpets. There's going to be some treatments to the walls to update it a teeny little bit. But the biggest improvement that we're super excited about is the reason that these drapes are always on is that depending on how the sun is setting, it creates glare on the camera, and so it's very, very difficult for people online or in Zoom land to see you because of it hitting the lens of the camera. And so we're still working this all out, but the idea is we're going to flip the room, thereby allowing us to raise, these are all full windows. And if you go to anybody's office on the third floor here, the views are really nice and you get to see Lincoln as it's happening outdoors. And I think it leads just a nicer, more professional environment for everyone. And the cost of this little change is a teeny tiny, very teeny tiny little fraction of what new council chambers would cost. And so we think it's an economical decision that gives us a little more seating capacity and a nicer environment for everyone. So we'll be bringing that, and happy to get your comments and questions on that now and then. Other than that, I don't think I have anything significant to report, aside from you may have noticed that our solar project on this side is really fastly moving along. They have panels up. Now they're moving kind of into electrical. You'll see some boring occurring that's going to go under the street to City Hall to make the connection. And pretty soon, the last I heard from the project manager was that the construction fencing that's already been moved back will eventually go away because they'll just be working above. And then I think the next project in the queue, I believe, is going to be the pickleball courts at McBean. Am I right about that, Matt? Not sure.
Well, the very next one is going to be the next parking lot.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not that was do you know, Matt, if it was going to be small parking lot then pickleball, or they're going to do them concurrently?
Give me a minute and I'll look at the schedule. I just got the updated schedule today.
Okay. So anyway, point being that PD is in construction at the moment. The community center one is pretty close to done. They've got everybody's parking back the way they always did now there. And then the last one they'll do after they complete these is the big project out. And there's also one going on at Public Works at the moment, a parking one, but there will be the large solar farm scenario as the very last project. Oh, and I had a request, and we will do it. We are going to get a new date for skate park groundbreaking to coming up.
Thank you. That was
Yep.
on my list.
Yep.
So great.
Sean McBean is next. You were correct. City Hall, McBean, and then the courtyard.
Just like a steel box, dude.
Well, where's the small parking lot in that? Is it out right after this one? The one next to, across the street?
That was the plan. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's what we thought. Okay, great. Awesome.
Is that it, Sean? Perfect, okay. Council initiated business. Anyone?
Have any business?
Okay. Takes care of that. Committee reports, starting with Holly.
I don't have anything. Since the last time, we haven't had anything really worth mentioning.
Okay.
I know, yeah.
Whitney?
Yeah, I had everything in the last couple weeks. Seems like on the 14th we had EDC and we went through the new draft economic incentive program, which our economic development and communications directors put together for us. Draft is really awesome. It's aimed at establishing and attracting new businesses to Lincoln using sales tax revenue as like a rebate model. So we're looking at that. And then the next day on the 15th, we had our 2x2 with PCWA. And well, now all my notes, a lot of it we covered earlier with our presentation, but we went through the Water Master Plan Progress Update, which we just had, and then the River Arc Update, which is the project down in Sacramento with the American River, and that was adopted in 2000, updated last 2015. The project aims to provide reliable and safe water supply for the Sac regions, along with to serve the long-term growth, preserving environmental, wildlife, fish, and balancing that with rec and the aesthetic of the lower American River. And that partnership is with City of Sac, City of Roseville, PCWA, and the consultants are ICF, West Yost, and MBK Engineers. Schedule right now is that they're looking into the environmental EIR. That's next in 2027, 28 will be procurement, and then phase 1 implementation was estimated to be starting around 2030. Same thing with Ophir treatment plant, which we talked about, phase 1, maybe 2030. If you want to look up more about the River Arc project, the website is really informative and well done. I've looked at it a couple times. It's riverarcproject.com. And then on the 20th was our chamber board meeting, and I sit on that as the city liaison. And we went over a summary of last year's events, and I thought it would be interesting to share with the public all the different events that the chamber did last year. Their top event starting in June was the car show. It had 517 registered classics. 4th of July, there were over 100 entries, which brought 13,500 people to the downtown. August was the Wings and Wheels, 150 classic cars, 70 aircrafts, 60 vendors, and we estimated that 8,500 people came to that event. Taste of Lincoln was in September, estimated to be 1,200 people and 55 vendors. October was our State of the City. That was a smaller event. We didn't get an estimation on the amount of people, but it was a small event. November, December was our tree lighting and hometown Christmas parade. Tree lighting was estimated to bring in 4,000 people, and the hometown Christmas parade, 12,000 people. So all of these events definitely just want to underscore how many people are coming into our downtown, which helps our local economy, and foot traffic is always good for everybody. It's a win-win. One of the little hangups, there's a couple little hangups that affect us, I believe, in different ways. With these events, in particular, the Christmas tree lighting and hometown parade, there was an issue with illegal food vendors coming to that event, which is a health risk. It's not really fair to the local businesses that are spending a lot of money to be there and paying, for all the reasons that are obvious. So the chamber's looking at whether or not hiring private security is best versus relying on local PD. That's something that we're having an ongoing conversation about, I believe. And then one of the other things that happened is right before the Taste of Lincoln, I believe that was the event that this happened. Or was it the Christmas parade?
No, it was 2 days before Taste of Lincoln.
Okay. Maybe, yeah. There was a change in the permitting fees with the county. So it was the health department, I believe, that raised the permitting fees right before the event. And then it's higher than all the other counties. Two of our county supervisors were contacted by our CEO to try to figure out a solution at the last minute. And I think that they got a meeting. They weren't able to figure out what the rationale was for raising those fees at the last minute or why, but I think that's also an ongoing thing. I'm not sure that there has been a solution yet, but if there's anything that we can do to help with that, that would be great. Because a couple people had to drop out at the last minute. It wasn't profitable because of the rise in fees. And I think we have our 2x2 in a couple days with the county, so maybe we can put that
Right.
on our last minute items.
Yeah, yep, yeah.
Okay, and then I'll let you talk about airport, but for LAFCO, it wasn't a big meeting. We were talking about the ongoing continuation of our EO recruitment initiative, and hopefully I'll find out any day now that, well, probably at our 2x2, that we were kind of hung up with the county HR process, and it was kind of stuck there, and hopefully by last Thursday, they were able to get the ball rolling and file that through so we can hire or start the process of hiring an EO, because we still have our interim, and that's really, really needed. And then we voted for a delegate to be designated for the February 23rd CalAFCO board meeting, where we're going to be voting on a new bylaw, which will expand and allow EOs to potentially be voting members on the board. And I was designated to be the voting delegate because I'm going to be in the meeting anyway, as a CalAFCO board member, and that's on February 23rd. And I plan to support that so that there's more opportunities for expanding on the board and having more continuity, if there is not a elected who's available.
Oh, so the EO just to be a voting member if needed? Okay, but not all the time?
Well, I gotta look at how they're gonna present it,
I don't-
but
Well, I'd like to hear about that. That's interesting.
we can talk about that more. Okay, that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
You've been busy,
Yeah, it was, like I said, everything happens like in the same week and a half.
and you're leaving off one thing, on LAFCO.
What?
Don't we have are we gonna have a new chair of LAFCO in May?
Oh, in May. Yeah, but that didn't happen. I mean, I was appointed vice chair last year. I can't remember what
Yes,
month
but
it
I was
was.
on
the
City
blur.
Select, and we.
Oh, well, I left City Select for you.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, Whitney will be
I'll
the
steal your
chair
thunder.
starting in May.
Steal
So
my thunder.
yes, yeah, which is amazing considering that you've only been on it for a little bit more than a year.
Yeah,
So they have
thank
great
you.
confidence in you, and the City Select Committee was very laudatory, so that, yeah, that's good. That's
Thank
good.
you.
We need you on there without a doubt. Okay, airport, we are continuing, a couple of things, we're continuing discussions with a professional management group to run the airport. They manage 6 airports currently, small GA airports. We're coming up with, we think, a pretty creative solution for how we can make a win-win situation for both of them. So that's really cool. If it all comes to pass, and hopefully it will, we could have some people on board with the beginning of the fiscal year, maybe even a little bit before. So everything is moving forward very, very quickly. We have reverted on the south hangars. I think there are 33 hangars out there. After 47 years, they became ours. And so we've gone in there with Public Works has taken a look at it and see what they need, getting ready to start some painting on it, some other things. We'll consider what we want to do with them in the future. But those are ours, and now they're generating, I think, $13,000 a month gross and less expenses, but that's new money for the airport, which is really good. If anyone hasn't been out of the airport recently, you'll see that it's changed dramatically with the new hangars that are going up. I was not out there for, I think, about 3 weeks, and poof, I mean, walls are up and new hangars are up. It's coming along really quickly. That's really super. I think that's it on the airport. Matt, anything else on the airport that I forgot about?
Just a shout out to Nita and her effort for the master fee schedule. We have implemented some new fees at the airport that will be going into effect in July that will help with the upkeep and the kind of sustainability of the airport, the community area maintenance fee.
Yep.
And some other fees that are going to help support some of the services that the airport users have asked for.
Yeah, the common area maintenance fee should bring in $125,000 to $150,000 a year. And the pilots are overjoyed to pay that because it's going to benefit them, benefit the airport. And there's only 7 months before Wings and Wheels. So get started on that. Pioneer Community Energy, they completed an external audit that came through with flying colors, unqualified opinions. That's really good. We started talking about rates for the next year. They continue to do very well on generation, beating PG&E, but there are some other additional charges from PG&E that's really arcane, but it's going to hit in 2026. They're working through the process right now. And at the end of the next council meeting, I should be able to give some more guidance on what, if you're in Pioneer, and everyone should be in Pioneer, what those rates will be for next year. So that was good, and that's all I have. John? Okay. Ben? Okay. Cool.
Oh, was there Parks and Rec?
Oh, yes, we did have Park and, oh, thank you. We did have Park and Rec. And Denise Watry and her staff did a really great presentation on the aquatic program. And they've really turned it around in the last few months and starting to be profitable, a lot of great programs. And families are really, really pleased and excited. And so she shared with where they've come from, where they're going, some of the challenges, some of the cool things. So, eventually one of these days, I told them as soon as we get done building the skate park, we'll start working on an aquatic center. But it was very impressive. They've done a really great job. And so, yeah, Park and Recs is moving right along. Yep. And since I have the mic, can I go to information?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to steal everybody's thunder here. Dutch Bros opened last week or 2 weeks ago. And let me just tell you, super exciting. What I love about this is that, we've been waiting a long time and it's finally here. Heather's staff did a really great job and Tori was out there from the chamber all night long and then helping. And then Officer Schneider was out there with traffic. And in the morning from 5 till like 6:30 or 7, there was traffic on the side of the road. But after that, after the opening morning rush, there hasn't been any cars on the street at all. The parking lot is doing its job. And I'm really excited about that because we've had a lot of speculation and worry that it's going to be awful. Yeah. And so I'm really relieved for one, but just really pleased because I tell people, I'm like, we did 2 traffic studies. Like, we're pretty sure this parking lot can handle it. And so far, now that's not to say that on special days or occasions that it might not overflow, but everybody was really good about pulling off the side, not blocking traffic. But really excited about that because it offers something different for a certain demographic of people who like Dutch Bros. And the other thing, I just wanted to mention that I saw a lot of, comments online about all of our other mom and pop coffee shops and how that's going to hurt them. And actually talking with those owners and just knowing them how I know them, I really don't think that's the case because you don't have a lot of teenagers going to Easy Company or East Avenue or Brood or Rebel Hen sometimes, but they don't. They go to Starbucks and now they're going to go to Dutch Bros too. I mean, and these other coffee shops have their own following. And so it's only going to be, I think more choices bring more business, right? So I'm really excited about it. I appreciate everyone's patience and just diligence and staff and everybody just pushing through that, working with PG and all that. And so I think it's great. And I'm really excited for that. And it was a lot of fun. Yeah, my husband and I got up and got in line at 6:30. Took us an hour and a half to get our coffee. And people are like, why would you wait in line for an hour and a half? I'm like, only on opening day. I'll never do it again. But it was fun. So there's that. And then, really excited, I, told, Chief Alves' wife that I would push this out, and advertise, because we are all going, to the Public Safety Foundation Gala on February 21st. What's it called? The Axe and Shield?
Yes.
Shield and Axe. I knew I had it wrong. Anyway, it's going to be really great. Very excited about that. We want to raise a lot of money for our Public Safety Foundation. So tickets are still available. You guys buy tickets. Everybody come on February 21st at the Event Center at the Bierman Building. And then lastly, this has been pushed out by the chamber, and I'm sure you guys have seen it. But the chamber is hosting on February 3rd here in City Hall a seminar about unmasking fraud, protecting seniors from financial exploitation. But anybody can come. If you are a senior or you have a senior in your family or your neighbors, but it's good for anybody. Because what's really sad about the world we live in is that fraudsters and scammers never stop. They go and go and go. And so we really just need to protect our seniors because they're more vulnerable to that, because these people call and they sound so real and so convincing. So anyway, wanted to invite everybody to that 12 to 1:30 on February 3rd. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Ben?
update on Oak Tree Lane.
All right.
We found out this morning that PG&E is complete. They are now done, and it is now on the developer's shoulders to complete that. And there's a few more things that they need to do, but we now have a green light from PG&E to go. So it was a lot of stuff that they had to deal with, and weather and whatever. So they were way slow.
Yeah, I asked him specifically, we had a representative from PG&E come to the chamber meeting this morning. And I asked him, what's the ETA for the final? And he said, they're done. They don't really know, but they'll push, and our people will continue to push. But yeah, we're going to have a groundbreaking on that one when that happens, without a doubt. Yeah,
Get some balloons, go up in the air. Let's make a big deal of it, huh?
You bet, you bet. Okay, anyone else? Anything from staff? Okay, good. Done.